So Montag needs some help here. He knows things aren't right. He knows that the books might be able to help him, but he doesn't really know where to start. And every time he reads, he's just confused. So we're going to see him turning to a new character that we're about to meet. Anne, she laughed. Yes, the white clown's on tonight. Montag walked to the kitchen and threw the book down. Montag, he said, you're really stupid. Where do we go from here? Do we turn the books in and forget it? He opened the book to read over Mildred's laughter. Poor Millie, he thought. Poor Montag, it's mud to you too. But where do you get help? Where do you find a teacher this late? So Montag's feeling really overwhelmed, right? He says, Montag, it's mud to you too. We've got this great metaphor. He compares trying to read to mud, something sticky, messy. You can't see through it. It's brown, it's thick, it's gunky. And this is how he's feeling as he's trying to read. And he just doesn't know what to do. And he says, where do you find a teacher this late in the game? He needs a mentor. He needs a guide. He needs help navigating this new world. Hold on. He shut his eyes. Yes, of course. Again, he found himself thinking of the Green Park a year ago. The thought had been with him many times recently, but now he remembered how it was that day in the city park when he had seen that old man in the black suit hide something quickly in his coat. The old man leapt up as if to run, and Montag said, Wait! I haven't done anything, cried the old man, trembling. No one said you did. So this thing that this old man quickly hides in his coat, you guys can probably guess, is a book. So Montag remembers this time in the past. So this is a flashback. He remembers this time in the past when he came across this old man in the park who quickly tucked something away that he had been looking at, which we can surmise is a book. And the way he reacts, the way he tries to run away when he sees Montag, really highlights the idea that this is probably a book that he's reading. And he's afraid when he sees a fireman approach him. But Montag doesn't react as if he's about to arrest this guy. He tells him to wait. And he says, no one said you did anything wrong. So clearly, Montag wants to have a conversation with this guy. So remember, this is all flashback. This is in the past. They had sat in the green soft light without saying a word for a moment. And then Montag talked about the weather, and then the old man responded with a pale voice. It was a strange, quiet meeting. The old man admitted to being a retired English professor who had been thrown out upon the world 40 years ago. When the last liberal arts college shut for lack of students and patronage, his name was Faber. And when he finally lost his fear of Montag, he talked in a cadenced voice, looking at the sky and the trees and the green park. And when an hour had passed, he said something to Montag, and Montag sensed it was a rhymeless poem. Then the old man grew even more courageous and said something else, and that was a poem too. Faber held his hand over his left coat pocket and spoke these words gently. And Montag knew if he reached out, he might pull a book of poetry from the man's coat. But he did not reach out. His hand stayed on his knees, numbed and useless. I don't talk things, sir, said Faber. I talk the meaning of things. I sit here and know I'm alive. That was all there was to it, really. An hour of monologue, a poem, a comment. And then, without even acknowledging the fact that Montag was a fireman, Faber, with a certain trembling, wrote his address on a slip of paper. For your file, he said, in case you decide to be angry with me. I'm not angry, Montag said, surprised. So let's talk about some things here that we learn about this new character, Faber. Okay, first, he's older. He's a man, and he's a retired English professor. So he worked in a college teaching students about literature. But he doesn't have a job anymore because all of the colleges, all of these liberal arts colleges have shut for lack of students. No one wants to read in this society. No one wants to be curious or learn or to question. And so eventually all of these schools just closed down because no one was going to them. We also see some great imagery being associated with him. So, again, pay attention to the type of imagery that Bradbury uses in the text because it's really indicative of the characters. So, remember, Mildred a lot of times was associated with cold, barren imagery, mausoleums, snow-covered mountains, islands, being empty. Clarice was associated with this really beautiful light imagery, moonlight, candles, mirrors, clocks, whiteness. Faber here is associated with greenery, parks, nature. And this, again, really contrasts to a lot of the imagery that we were just previously seeing with Mildred and how nature is perverted in the society and replaced with technology. So we see Faber, like Clarice, is different. Like Clarice, he seems connected to the natural world. He reads, he wonders. He says, I don't talk things, I talk the meaning of things. I sit here and know I'm alive. He wants to understand. He wants to know and understand life. He wants to feel alive, not just live. And Montag is very surprised by his reaction. He clearly knows that this guy is probably harboring a book, which is illegal, and yet he's not angry. So even before he met Clarice, we could tell that Montag was questioning internally, wondering about this society that he lived in and this job that he was doing. And then he wasn't completely on board. He wasn't willing to face it, but obviously he wasn't completely on board with